sitting here with Davey Watt, former pool pirate, Australian Test representative, Townsville boy, and we're sitting here on the Rainshine coast, and we're having another chat and doing a bit of a thing on your whole career.
It's pretty average weather at the minute, but thanks for coming up. Having a bit of a chat and going through some old stories. It'll be good.
3. So this is purely for myself, but there's 4 helmets up there. One's a factory showy that's unpainted or uncustom painted, but you've got 3 there that are custom painted. So did you ride that wave of being the rider with the 4 helmets, or were you always sort of the helmet colours guy?
Nah, I had helmets painted every year since about 2005 maybe. I always had at least 4 helmets painted every year, and I think this was my favourite one. So, but then I gave the white one away accidentally, and I told my mechanic that I wanted this guy to have a helmet. I wanted him to have that one, but he gave him the wrong helmet. So unfortunately, I don't have the full set anymore. But I've kept them ones because I'm a big Snoopy fan, and love those helmets. So they're hung around for a while.
So you're someone in Speedway that I was fortunate enough to watch at a very young age for yourself and me. But where did all this sort of passion for motorsport, let alone dirt racing or even Speedway, come about?
Yeah, it's a few years ago now, but as I said, my dad loved Speedway, and my mum, but so I was racing dirt track at places like Trailblazers and Wheel Standers in North Brisbane, and there was a couple of guys, Clinton Leach and maybe Scott Smith, and a few guys were all sort of starting to look at junior speedway bikes, and my dad knew Brett Gregg. Unfortunately passed away a while later, but he had a junior speedway bike, and I think we got the first one from Brett Gregg, and never looked back. I mean, this thing was, it was solid. I think it was like a Beezer Bandom frame and little CB 100. Didn't even have a 125 in it. Just had a 100, and like it was made out of solid steel. This thing weighed a ton. Yeah, it was brutal, but it was a speedway bike, and I just loved riding it. I thought it was awesome. So, as time progressed, I started to go alright, and we upgraded and got better bikes and stuff. But that's how it all kicked off, and there was only a couple of us to get going. Clinton Leach, I know, was one of the first to have one, if not the first one to have a junior speedway bike in Queensland at that time, and his dad Des and his family and my family, and a few people all sort of just started to get involved. And I think after the first year we had a full field at least. I know we had a full field of juniors for the first Queensland title, and I think I won the first one, and I just had a great time. It was as soon as I got a bike, I loved it, and we used to go to the Ekka and watch Speedway, and watch the Russians coming out, or the Aussie title, or whatever it was. We just loved, as a family, going to the Speedway, and I don't know, that's still the same now. Nothing's changed.
From juniors, I think at the time there was tracks like Chandler, and I'm not sure where else, but you obviously started to go pretty good. You won a state title. Nowadays there's a progression of like 250s, and a while ago there was 350s, I think, to 500s. But when did you get your first sort of start or try to start on a 500?
When I was on 125s, yeah, it's going pretty good, and I've sort of been winning a bit. We were racing at Chandler and Wheel Standers. Chandler was massive to us because we were on the same track, same platform as all the big boys. You know, it was awesome. Ronnie and the Langdon family, gave us a golden opportunity there, and that was massive for a lot of people, especially myself. But we rode there in Wheel Standers, and Gold Coast put in a track, but that wasn't until a little bit later. But we travelled around, we went, lots of places. And as I was sort of progressing, I think I got to about 15, and somebody gave me a bike out at Wheel Standers one day, and they were riding on the Speedway track and I was riding on the juniors, and I think I finally twisted somebody's arm to give me a go on a bike. And back then it was a little easier. You could have a crack on someone's bike, and you didn't have to sign a waiver or whatever. But so that was pretty cool, and I had a skid, and it was scared the life out of myself. But I think that's probably the best feeling in the world, is being scared. So I was I think I was even more drawn to it. And then I went to an Aussie title, a junior Aussie title up in Darwin, and we travelled up, I think, with Stevie Viner and I can't remember. Anyway, and we had a great time up there. But I think we got second. I can't remember. Anyway, and then after the meeting, somebody bought my bikes, and so my dad bought a 500 off somebody up there, and we just brought it back down with us. We took junior Speedway bikes up and bought a 500 back. So I was 15 and a half and was over riding juniors, just wanted to ride 500. So I did the next few months just practicing on a 500, and then it was into it. So I didn't have that 250, 350 progression. I wish I had it, that would have been awesome, but it is what it, that's what it was then. So you were straight into it, and it's a pretty difficult transition for sure, but I was just I think I was so excited to.
So Dave, we're in the shed here and we're looking at a lot of stuff, and you pointed out something off camera to me that I want to talk about. There's a motor sitting there, sort of half. What's that motor, and what's the story behind it?
That is that's my first upright GM that I ever had. So I think I bought that from Steve Langdon, and somehow after all these years I've ended up with it again. Steve Langdon's looked after it, and he gave it he had it, and he gave it to my dad as a present, as a Christmas present, and said, let's build it up. So my dad gave it to me and said, right, let's do this. So between us, we're going to build it up, and I'm going to make that into a I've got my first frame as well, and scattered around here. So I'm going to make that. I'll build the engine up, and then I'm going to put the engine in that frame, and build it up to be what is my first ever Speedway bike, and my first ever GM, and but I'm going to make it look like my last one. So so it's a little project. So I'm going to build that up soon, and hopefully go on over. 100% sure. I think
in that time of going onto a senior bike, it's very different to how it is now, and I assume it would have been more of you had to even get onto the program, let alone get a start. And I imagine there was A, B, C, maybe even D grade sort of bikes back then. But how did it go about with your first race meeting? Did you have to lie about your age, or was it sort of not too hard to get onto sort of support program, I guess you'd say?
After maybe a day or two after my 16th birthday, and that track was it was only 90 meters long. I think it was around a cricket pitch or something like that. It was so ridiculously small and difficult to ride. I mean, it was difficult to ride around just by yourself, you know, let alone with three other guys. It was so hard. And as a 16-year-old that had ridden only a handful of times, I struggled, but I got around, you know, and I'm not sure how it all came about, but I got a crack at it, you know, and I remember racing there, and I think Ray Morton was there. I think it was my first meeting, and Ray Morton was there from England, and as it turned out, a few years later I went to England, and I was teammates with Ray Morton, and blew me away. Yeah, I was so surprised and stunned, and he ended up becoming a mate of mine. It was pretty cool.
So you do some stints, or you do a stint over there, and then you come back to Australia, and then I think you take out the 04, 05, I think it is, Queensland title they held at Gatton. And prior to that, you're sort of the bridesmaid for a fair few things. What was it like to finally get that out the way, and then you can sort of show that you can hang in Australia or even your own state, let alone doing so well overseas?
Yeah, it was good to win that one. I'd been trying for a couple of years and hadn't managed to win one, so I was pretty frustrated. And especially at the time in England, at the end of each season, there was always heaps of open meetings on, and I was winning a lot of them. You know, I was always on the podium, but I used to win heaps of these meetings, and they're always against good riders, and I thought, God, how can I win all of these ones, but I can't win a bloody state title? So I was pretty frustrated, and so that was a really good one to get. I was pretty happy with that one, and at the time I was back here. I think my visa had run out, so I had to. I think I had to get a maybe top 2 or top 4. I think it was top 2 back then in the state title to get a visa to go back the following year. And my fiance was pregnant with my first daughter, Madison, and she was due to be born in January. So I was under a bit of pressure to do well in that meeting, and anyway, so I could get a visa and get back to England quick before my daughter was born. And obviously, on top of that, save my career and make sure that I was still able to keep going and having a job over there. So that was pretty intense, that meeting. So to win it under all this pressure that I'd put myself under, it was pretty cool. And I felt like I could sort of go on from that point and and really do well. And I'd committed to riding in Elite League the following year in 2005. So I'd put myself under a fair bit of pressure at that point to level up. And
so lastly, Dave, we'll talk about some of the suits. So the one straight in front of me is the most recent one that I've seen, but talk about some of the Australian ones. They're pretty impressive.
Yes, these are my Team Australia suits from, I think, 2005 or 6. I think 6, maybe 2005. And then I think I missed the next year. I was injured, and then 7, 8, 9, 10, blah, blah, blah. And I think there's maybe 1 or 2 missing out of there. One suit got sold at auction for Lee Adams, and I think I missed another one through injury. And then, but yeah, they're all my Team Australia suits. They're the only suits that I kept throughout my career. I had a lot. I went through a lot of suits, and had no interest in keeping them all. But these ones certainly meant a lot to me, and yeah, I'm very grateful for the time that I got to ride for Australia, and you know.
You're one of the riders that managed to go overseas and do really well. It's not an easy feat for people to go compete against the rest of the world, and that frequently and that. So, what is the actual sort of schedule and like the the sort of demographic and all that sort of thing of going overseas? Do you race for one team a couple of times a week?
Oh man, that's a difficult one. There's, you know, as your career builds, you know, obviously more people want you to ride, and yeah, I got going all right over there, and you know, ended up signing to race in Sweden, and then signed to ride in Poland on the back of riding in England. So I was, you know, originally just riding in the second division in England, and then I was riding in first and second division, doubling up, and then I signed in Sweden, then signed in Poland, and basically it just, you know, began to build, and you know, and you're doing all these open meetings and international meetings in wherever, different countries, and but like you know, for a long time there, you know, a typical week would be, you know, racing at Poole on a Wednesday night, and then possibly away somewhere in England on a Thursday and a Friday night. Fly to Poland on Saturday morning and practice. Stay there and race Poland on a Sunday, and then fly back to England on Monday morning, and your mechanic would pick you up, and you'd try to get some sleep in the van, and then you'd race somewhere pretty much on a Monday night, and then fly back out the next morning back to the airport, and then fly back out the next morning back out to Sweden for Tuesday night, and then back to England to race at Poole on a Wednesday. So you were every day you were you're on a flight pretty much 4 times a week, maybe more, maybe 6. It depends on how things were going or where you were, and you know, you might do a meeting in Denmark or Germany or Czechia or something. So yeah, you're on a flight, you know, every second day at least. You're racing, you know, all the time. You're doing at least 3 meetings a week, sometimes more, you know, sometimes you race every day. You know, I think I did 13 meetings in 12 days, you know, including a double up meeting during Easter. I think we rode in the morning at Poole, and then the night at Eastbourne, and then I rode, you know, every day around it. It was pretty crazy, you know. You're doing that many meetings, you get tired pretty quick. So it's and then, you know, you're doing that kind of schedule all season long, and it's really tough. So it's a tough gig over there, but you know, that's what you're there for. You love it, and I wouldn't change it for the world. I enjoyed every part of it. It was just maybe not every part, but I enjoyed it a lot. I had a great time, and I was lucky enough to do it with some good mates and earn some money out of it, and you know, got to see some awesome places, meet fantastic people, and see the world in the process. It was awesome.
Period of time there in Poole, I think it was, you sort of had 2 of the really good younger guys, or slightly younger than you, on your team. I think it was Chris Holder and Darcy Ward, and you know, I watched footage and that, and you guys were really good at the time, and there was sort of a big buzz around Australian riders, and what was that sort of period of time like? Were you living in each other's pockets and forcing each other to get better, or what was the whole?
Yeah, it was. That was an awesome time. You know, we were all kind of at different stages of our career, but we were all going pretty good. You know, and we weren't really intently focused on you know, anything like that, but we were doing it. It was just happening, you know, and we were building ourselves, we were building each other, we were, you know, there was expectation that we would be scoring points everywhere we went, and we had a great time, you know, and we just had fun. Like we genuinely had fun everywhere we went, no matter what we did, you know. We just had this chemistry of just having fun no matter what, and we produced a lot of points in the process. So it was, you know, I think at the time you don't really realize what's happening around you. You just sort of riding your bike and doing your thing. You know, but looking back on it now, you know, I still see people posting videos and photos and whatever of us, you know, like weekly still, because of what we achieved back then. You know, we won a lot of races individually. We won a lot of meetings collectively. You know, with Pool, with you know, Chris and I rode together in Sweden. Chris and Darcy rode together in Poland. You know, we all obviously rode together in Pool. You know, and we were either, you know, living next door to each other kind of thing, or you know, Darcy and I lived with each other for a while as well, you know, maybe a few years. So we, yeah, we were just like this little motley crew that we just run around having a ball riding speedway bikes. And you know, if I look back on it, it was probably one of the best times in my career, because I just was having fun. You know, it was all the time, and you know, it was never difficult. And yeah, I'm grateful for being able to go through a period of time like that. It was awesome. It was just, yeah, it was awesome.
You also had a few heat wins in a GP, I think, or one heat win particularly that was quite good. But how come you were never the rider that was in all the GPs and all that, but you clearly showed that you had speed and all that? Is it like a politicky thing, or is it just really difficult to get into the GP? Like, what's the scenario with your career? And
yeah, it's a tough one. You know, like the GPs are obviously the pinnacle of the sport, and you know, when you know, when you're trying to get into the Grand Prix, you're you know, you're battling against everybody else with the same intentions, obviously, and yeah, there are no slouches. You know, there's some, you know, very good quality riders that just don't get to the Grand Prix, and because you know, there is that next level to get to. And you know, I was you know, I was good in all the leagues, and you know, had decent averages and all that kind of stuff, but when it came to the Grand Prix, I just wasn't, you know, or at least the qualification series, I just wasn't, I wasn't consistent enough, and you know, that's all really cutthroat. So when you make one mistake along the way, that's enough to rule you out. And yeah, unfortunately, I had a habit of making some silly mistakes, or you know, just bad luck or whatever. You know, however you want to put it. Doesn't really matter now, but it, you know, just that's what it was. I just never got there, and you know, I wish I could change that, but it just, yeah, that's just where I landed. And you know, I loved competing for it, you know. And I won Grand Prix qualifiers and all that kind of stuff, but it was just for one reason or another. I just never got there. I know that. I know one time I was probably favourite to qualify through, and I missed my flight, and I didn't miss it. I got stuck in Amsterdam. I flew into Amsterdam, was supposed to change flights, and the flight was overbooked, and they said, oh, because you booked the flight late, you're the last one to get on the flight, and there's no seats, everyone's turned up. So I missed my flight to Sweden, and yeah, just missed out. It was I'll never forget it, but it was, at the end of the day, it is what it is, you know. I just didn't get there, so I can have every excuse under the sun, but I never made it, and it's frustrating for me, but you know I gave it every shot that I could, and I gave it my all. It's just never worked for me, unfortunately.